This is Miranda, and today I wanted to talk about why I give my dog human-grade dog food and not kibble. And so I have a video, and I'll link it below in the comment section for this video. I have a video where I'm discussing what dog food, what human-grade dog food brand specifically that I have gone on that works for both of my dogs with sensitive GI issues. But I didn't discuss why I chose to give my dog kibble. Sorry, why I chose to give my dog human-grade dog food instead of kibble. So that's what I decided to do in this video. And so starting at the beginning, so there's a both personal in addition to logical reasons why I've switched. I chose to give my dogs the food that I do. So first, when I was 12, I got a Papillon. He was, full size, maybe 12, 15 pounds. I don't quite recall. But he passed away before his 8th birthday, which was very sad and very unexpected. And the vet had said, so he passed away because of pancreatitis, and the vet said that it was most likely due to his diet. And so at the time, back in the early 2000s, it really wasn't something, oh, you give your dog, like kibble was bad for the dog, it causes cancer, it has all these harmful chemicals in it. That wasn't really something that was being discussed. In addition to, I don't really believe there was, and maybe there was, I was younger, my preteen, so I don't recall, but I don't recall there being fresh dog food that you can give your dog back in, and that was a big kick. And so that's one of the personal reasons is just I had gotten that dog. We got him from a good breeder, and both of his parents, lived 16 plus years, and he passed away before he was 8. And that was, as the vet said, it was due because of his diet. He wasn't eating healthy, and basically his pancreas failed because of it. So going into that's one of the personal reasons. And then another reason in addition to is actually my dog. I adopted my dog when he was 3 years old, and he came in with several GI issues where he was having, ear infections, constant ear infections, scabs on his face. When he would eat certain things, his paws would be inflamed with yeast problems, all sorts of GI issues, diarrhea, vomiting, you name it, all sorts of problems. He was under some distress there. And so when I got him, given all of these problems, I started with Ollie's in particular is where I started. It was a human grade dog food. And I noticed, wow, well, he has a lot more energy. He's feeling a lot better. His stomach is a lot, has a lot fuller on fur. And people would come up and pet him and would say, oh my goodness, your dog, his fur is so soft. He looks so healthy. And so going in from, losing my first dog and now my current dog, he's actually going to be turning 9 in November. And the fact that, he's still around, and he doesn't even look like an old dog, actually. He's, joke that all the time. He still has all the energy in the world. He looks very young. He looks very healthy. He's not showing any signs of aging, anytime soon, anyhow. And so he'll be around for quite some time, which is very, very important to all dog owners, of course, that your dogs don't suffer and they live as long as possible. So those would be the personal reasons. And now let's go into the logical reasons. So I did a very brief, because I didn't want this to be an extensive video of, oh, you should or shouldn't have kibble, for your dogs. I didn't really want it to be a lecture. Just these are some points, pros and cons that I've come across, the main ones. Make your decision maybe as you choose, or you could do more research, etc., so on. So let me just share my screen and we'll go into the bullet points here. And so again, these are just the most common ones that I've come up with. You can make this list as long as you want. So going in, let's go into the pros first of kibble. So of course, kibble, why does the majority of people buy it, right? It is very convenient to store and to transport. And also it has no mess whatsoever. If you have ever fed your dog fresh human grade food or tried to cook food for your dog or raw food, it does convey mess, we'll be putting it, because first you have to deal with opening it up and trying to, put the correct portion in your dog bowl and not getting it splattered all over the kitchen and things like that. In addition to, you're going to have to deal with, well, either you have to have a freezer to put it in, or you have to be thawing it out and then storing in the fridge for 3 to 5 days. Otherwise, it's going to go bad if it's outside of the fridge. So that all adds a bit of pain there. And so first, there's always separation too of, your dog food's not in your fridge, it's not in your freezer. This one could be in a cupboard, could be in a plastic container outside, kibble in specific, so that definitely makes it more convenient. And then also you have the affordability. And so when I'm buying a 4-pound human grade dog food container of Benson for my one dog, that lasts him maybe a few meals max, and that's $48. Whereas kibble, and again, back when I was buying kibble, and this would be a long time ago, and so my numbers could be incorrect, But Kibble itself, I believe it was a 20, 30-pound bag of food for, $40 to $60, depending on the quality, brand you are getting and ingredients. So again, very substantial. You can feed a decent sized dog for a month to 2 months, whereas I'm getting a couple meals for about the same price. So perfectly understandable why fresh human grade dog food is just too unaffordable for the general, for a good portion of the people that own pets. It's just not practical. It would be considered more of a luxury. So that's another, I guess con you can say for human grade food and a pro for kibble. And then going in is also argued that kibble specifically is formulated to be nutritionally complete, which is good, making sure your dog gets all the ingredients that are necessary. Whereas if you're cooking, home cooked food for your dog, you could worry whether or not am I giving everything that my dog needs? How can I even test? How would I even know if my dog's not getting the appropriate nutritional content? Things like that was a lot of issues that I faced when I was making food specifically from scratch, which is one of the many reasons that I switched over to human grade dog food at the pet store, so that I had some level of assurance that, the food was made and formulated in the recipe for dogs so that my dog was getting all the necessary nutrients and minerals in the food. And then going on into cons of kibble. And again, this is catch 22, right? It can be argued either way, but kibble is made to be cheap. Like that is agreed upon. Kibble is made to be affordable. And so in the fact to make it cheaper, then and specifically this is going in with brands, lower quality, lower end, cheaper brands, they're going to use lower quality ingredients just because that's going to cost less, things that humans are not going to eat and things like that. Yes, it's good for dogs in a sense, all the internal organs that people won't eat. Yes, that works out, but it can also go to the point that the quality of the meat itself could be more so worrisome or less quality, less nutritional, just to keep the cost down. So that's something to keep in mind when you think, okay, kibble is supposed to be completely nutritionally balanced, but is it really, if the quality of the ingredients aren't so great coming in? And again, more research could be done on this because, it can be argued both points. That's why I'm saying that this is just a con where a question comes up that people raise for a con for kibble. And then going into the second one, commercial brands, they put harmful chemicals and fillers that cause health problems down the road for your dog. Of course, fillers. When I mean fillers, I mean that could be anything from rice, cheap materials, things that are going in to try and reduce the cost down on the production costs, so when they sell it to the consumer, they can offer it a cheaper price. And in addition to, the chemicals, and of course, they're not just going to put toxins into your dog food. This is just chemicals that, again, and be it flavorings, any sort of food ingredient itself that could be argued maybe it's not really in the best interest of your dog is going in there because the more expensive alternative, right? It costs more money. They're looking for the way to keep their costs down. And then going into the last one, kibble, if you're not familiar with, it's cooked under very intense pressure and heat. And that process itself tends to generate more carcinogens and mutagens that are not good for pets, known to cause problems, be it inflation, be it cancer over time, etc., so on. In addition to when they're cooking food like this, it's also reducing the nutritional value of the food itself. Just as if a human were to eat an apple versus, you can even look online. If you eat a raw apple, a raw vegetable, versus if you cook the vegetable, the nutritional content goes down as the item gets cooked. Specifically, if you're going to cook it for very, very high pressures, high temperatures. And so that's just arguing that it's generating unhealthy or, not good chemicals and carcinogens in addition to reducing the nutritional content. And this, you really can't get around this. This is the way that kibble is made. There's nothing to get around with it. Unfortunately, it's just the process itself. So those are the pros and cons there. And I would argue this, if you're someone who says, okay, well, is it really worth it, right? Is a lot of people have dogs that live a very long time, 15, 16, 17 years. They eat kibble the entire time. Whereas other people have dogs, as I have, right, who die very young or who have problems later in life, potentially due to diet, potentially it's genetic. Nothing is ever, you can argue either way in that regard. But my statement would just be that the way I look at kibble, if you want to think about it in terms of human, is if you want to think everything that you're supposed to eat, be it meat, fruit, vegetables, etc., the whole pyramid of food, grains, etc., that you're supposed to eat, What if someone put that into into little pellets like cereal, cooked it in high pressure, high heat, and told you to eat it every day? Would your logic brain say, yes, this works? Yes, I'm getting all the nutrients I'm supposed to be getting. Yes, this is healthy for me. That's all I would put out there. Is of course, people can argue dogs, are animals, but to me, it's basically a child. That's how I look at it. It's my child, it's my baby. And so would I, logically, does that seem right, the way that the kibble is cooked and how it's fortified and things like that? Does it feel like rationally that would be the healthiest way for your dog to eat? If you can, again, if you can afford to do better. If you can't, there's always the alternative, okay, I'll give my dog kibble and I can put a little bit of chicken on top, or I can put, a little bit of chicken, some vegetables on top as a topper, or I can put some fish, I can put some apples, I can put some fruit on top, right? You can add the raw ingredients freshly on top. And of course, always look online and make sure that, whatever you're adding to feed your dog can eat safely. Don't just go in and just randomly, I can eat it, therefore my dog can eat it. That is not logical. To be very cautious of that, because certain things like chocolate, onions, garlic, we can eat, dogs cannot eat. Onions specifically will kill a dog. They get poisoned and they can die. They kill their red blood cells. So no, like just because you can eat it doesn't mean give it to a dog, but just verify. Verify before giving it to a dog. Just quick Google search, can my dog eat this? But if you cannot afford to give your dog anything other than kibble, you can just put some, even if it's, frozen raw dog food, if it's human grade dog food, if it's just chicken, if it's just vegetables, whatever you have around the house, you can just add it as a topper, and that will also enhance the dog getting more nutrients, fresher nutrients and health and things like that. That's all I'm putting out there, is that there could be a balance, right? You can give kibble and then you can do human grade dog food, and that could be a little bit of a topper. Or you can do kibble and you do human grade dog food maybe for one meal, right? It doesn't have to be 100% one way or the other. And then again, you can look at that online too and see the pros and cons. I'm just arguing that it is, in my opinion, healthier to have it fresher, less processed, less cooked, and have more natural, clear ingredients versus everything being ground up and so heavily processed and cooked. Better interest for your dog. And you could, again, like I said, look it up online, look at all the research and everything, the pros and cons that I've done. This is where I've personally got to after losing one dog due to, as I feel, an avoidable health issue due to diet. So going into that, the other one I would say, okay, so I've talked about my dogs. Well, your dogs could just be unique. 100% correct. Then I'd argue there's always resistance. Again, my aunt specifically, she has a Shih Tzu who's 14 years old, and she has a Yorkie poo that's, I believe, a few years old. And so what ended up happening is her dog, being 14 years old, the Shih Tzu, was having a very difficult time eating the kibble. It was losing teeth. It was uninterested, losing weight and things like that, and just getting to the, closer to the end of her life. So my aunt started just giving her, beef, just cooked beef, because she would eat it, she was happy, things like that. And so she started giving it to her Yorkie poo too, because it was easier. It's like you can't just give, good food to one dog, you have to give to both of them. That dog would get very jealous and things like that. And so what ended up happening is she said, oh, my dog used to have such GI issues going to the bathroom, stomach issues, wouldn't finish. He wouldn't finish his food, his kibble and things like that. Now I've noticed, he's, a lot of the GI issues are gone now that I've been giving him this fresh cooked food. So I'm just putting that out there for you, that be as skeptical as you want, but why not try it? It doesn't hurt. A lot of these, human grade food services have a 2-week trial where they're giving you 40, 60, 70% off, right? Why can't you just try it? And even if, why not just get the subscription and not do it 100%? Why can't you just use it as a topper and see if there's a difference in your dog's health? Simple as that. So going into all that, now I'm going to end this video on just me showing a couple videos of what the food looks like when I used to cook it for my dogs. And so what I would do, and we can go into, let me go into the very first one here. What I would do is I would get very big cooking containers, and these are ceramic containers. You can do glass, you can do whatever, material you particularly want. And I just got these from TJ Maxx, and I got cheaper ones because I had no intentions of cooking, the human grade. the human food and then using it to cook my food after that. And so I would put it in the oven at 350 and I would do, a substantial amount of dog food at a time. And I'd put it in a Pyrex glass container where I would have one that I would put in the fridge and the rest, after letting it cool, I would put them in the freezer and I would just cycle through them through the week. So I only had to cook about once a week. And so you can see in here, so I would do different types of fish, cod. I don't even remember all the types of fish, but basically and look this up too with dogs, because the dog safe fish, because of the mercury content in some types of fish, it's not advisable to give it to dogs. So cod in particular is one that's very safe to dogs. And so I would put fish in there. I would put beef liver, turkey gillet, turkey liver, chicken heart, chicken liver, all the different internal organs, fish, fruits, vegetables, chicken, turkey, beef, the list goes on. And then eggs for calcium shell, they're calcium for the shells, things like that. And I would cook it. The only thing is, and you can find recipes online if you have preference to cook your dog food. The only thing that I would advise is just be cautious of, don't give your dogs too much fish, because again, it does have mercury content. Just like people are advised, don't have fish for every single meal, because mercury content can build up. It can cause health issues for dogs just as well as it can people. So that's one thing, just being cautious of that, but it's very good. I read resources online that the fish oils in fish are very, very good for dogs, very, very healthy. And then internal organs, a lot of internal organs are good. And in addition to that, dogs are not like humans where you should eat more vegetables than you should eat meat. In reality, you should be cooking about 75% of it should be meat. And this is back when I was cooking it. There could be new information on what is and isn't, and you can look this up. But about 75% should be meat and 25% should be vegetables. It really should be heavily focused on protein and meat and not on vegetables. But you should still include vegetables because they are good for your dogs, just in a minimal amount when cooking food. So going in, so I put them in the oven, and then I would let my dog, after, I got the food out of the containers and let it cool down. I would let my dog lick the containers, because before I put it in the dishwasher, why not? Why waste the additional juices, that he would love? So he would go and he would sit there for an hour or so and lick the containers clean. And then, so here are these containers that I would put. This is when I'm letting it cool off before putting it in the Pyrex glass containers. And then going in here, I've put it in some Pyrex glass containers. And the reason I did this is it's just easy to stack in the freezer and in the fridge. And then I would just go in and grab a scoop, whatever size, few cups, whatever amount that your dog would need to feed them. Just keep in mind, so when I did this initially, this was one of the reasons that I stopped doing human or raw cooked dog food. Cooked dog food from scratch. One of the reasons that I stopped doing it was I actually made my dog fat. So originally he was 48 pounds when I got from the shelter. He went all the way up to 65 pounds, and he should stay 48 pounds. He's back down to 48 pounds now. But I didn't know the calorie content of the food I was cooking, and I didn't know how much I should be feeding him, and he would just keep eating to his heart's content. So that's just something to be mindful if you're going to add food as toppers to kibble, or if you're going to feed your dogs, cook food from scratch, raw food, human grade dog food from the pet store. Just be mindful your dog might gain some weight, and so you might have to cut back on the amount of food that you are feeding your dog, just keeping that in mind. So that's where I would end it, is just, every diet room for improvement. And there's no harm in trying and just seeing if you basically what you find online, what I'm saying rings any truth to you. But for me, I've had, again, like I was said at the beginning, my first dog passed away before his 8th birthday, and he came from a very high quality, high caliber breeder that both of the parents, obviously the parents were still alive when we got him, but both the grandparents, things like that. There was a line of dogs living for a very long period of time, 16 plus years, and he passed away well before his time because of diet. And my current dog, he is turning 9 in November, and he doesn't even look old, to be honest with you. He's got a lot of energy, happiness, things like that. He's not really showing any signs of aging just yet. Of course he will, when he gets more into his 10, 11, 12. Granted, but I'm just saying that night and day, he is not showing his age, and he's looking very healthy. And I have been giving him this food from when I got him at 3 3 years. So just something to consider, dogs being just very important, right? There are, they can be our babies, right? Our children that aren't really our children. Um, another family member, as people call it. And so just getting a few more years is precious. Not losing them young, not having to deal with when they get older and they start having health issues, if those issues would be a lot minor. Any of that, any worth of that to me is worth the amount of money I'm spending as I can afford it. And I believe it's worth the amount of effort to put in what you can afford for your dog's health. So that's where I'll leave it. Thanks for watching, and please do subscribe or put comments below if you want me to go into more details on anything else.